I want to say about our secret of Ukrainian resilience. So a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends from other countries often ask me about what is the secret of your resilience. So we were attacked by country 28 times larger than ours, which for many years couldn't release its tentacles from our country, which russified our population and destroyed our culture for centuries. And from the first days of full-scale war, we are called this full-scale war because our war with Russia started back in 2014. The Russians started destroying our homes, killing and torturing our people. Everyone, regardless the age and nationality. See photos from massive mass graves of tortured and murdered Ukrainians in Irpin, in Bucha, and the last recent findings in Izum. We are fighting against a common enemy. We are fighting for our land, for the lives of our people, for the independent, for the future of our children, because we know what it is to be free. We know the taste of free, and unfortunately, its price. And we are ready to pay it. Thanks.
I will be honest, helping culture is not the priority for the Ukrainian government now. We understand these priorities. But this doesn't stop our creativity and desire to work for the good for our country. Our military need weapons. We are, and the cultural front needs your attention and your support. I would be happy to invite you to join us, because join our initiatives means to support our children, what makes a huge contribution to our culture, to our education, to our public sector. Helping Ukraine and Ukrainians is clearly an investment in our joint victory. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce you to brave Ukrainians. Thank you for your attention.
Our initiative is a part of Ukrainian civil society, holding balance and responding to growing needs caused by war. Research has shown that during the first 3 months, it was Ukrainian people's unity and solidarity and mutual help let us survive. But the resources of people who lived through the war are not unlimited. Grassroots initiatives in civil society in Ukraine need systematic and holistic support. This should not be only financial. Volunteers and NGOs need psychosocial support, rest and recuperation. Horizontal cooperation in communities needs to be strengthened. It is difficult to build sustainability only on enthusiasm. Support to civil society should gradually move from responding to urgent humanitarian needs to building capacity and providing institutional funding, recovery and recovery processes. The war exhausts resources and emotional capacity. The war isolates. It becomes difficult to find mutual understanding, to solve internal conflicts, to include needs of various groups. So a systematic approach to counter polarization in Ukrainian society, create safe spaces for dialogue. This should be supported. And to rebuild houses and infrastructure, first of all, we need to gather the needs of various members of the community and organize dialogue spaces where they can make joint decisions. How do they see their future? Developers create projects based on the outcomes of such community decisions, not before. And children and youth and vulnerable groups, they should be part of such discussions, and their needs should be taken into account. Thank you very much, and I'm ready for your questions.
It is important, please consider the voices of these vulnerable groups and invite various groups, various categories to the discussions, including Roma people who also have Ukrainian citizenship. Because I had an experience to work in different projects. For example, our project with Voice Amplified on shelter assessment in Hungary, and we find out that there is a huge segregation. So if you visited shelters and see Roma people in these shelters, only Roma people, and they are in the and non-Roma people, Ukrainian refugees, have better conditions in the shelters. So it is important to speak with Roma civil society, Roma NGOs, and to include this component on the all levels and to discuss it with the decision makers.
We have a great initiative that's, let's say, popular among the young people especially. That's kind of a rave festival, which helping to clean the territory which were suffered by Russian aggression. They are organizing the music and young people. Usually it's attend about 100 young people who is coming to help and to clean the places. That's really great initiatives.
And afterwards they not just help to clean the place, destroyed schools for instance, but they also dance together, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's an example of how something very serious, the recovery, can be connected with something fun.
I want to raise this issue with you, with German foundations, because I see that the huge funds of many international funds go to large national organizations, and a large part of this fund are spent on administration, and local organizations often receive small subgrants or in-kind assistance at all, and do not receive salaries. So support those who are working on the ground, local organizations. They are ones who make change. And also support our activists in Ukraine. I received a scholarship in EVZ Foundation, and I know how it is important for me as a refugee in another country. But I want to say that it is important to support also Ukrainian activists, because they are still in Ukraine and they relentlessly help the population and continue to raise socially important issues. They are the same heroes as our defenders, as our soldiers, and just look at our activists from Kharkiv, who 2 days ago held a pride in the subway in a city is constantly under the fire from the Russia side.
I think that the recovery process should be oriented not only on the past, like what we lost and how it looked like, but it should be oriented in the future. How do we want to live in the future, in 20 years, in 50 years? And actually, children and youth are those people who in 10 years will be voters, and in 20 years they will be working and pay taxes and will be active adults. And it's important that this rebuilding and revival process is also based on their visions of future, including also their needs. And I know some methods as focus groups or mapping of initiatives for gathering, also working with dreams and ideas. Because also trauma makes us not dream or isolates us and freezes us, and such activities which help us to rephrase a little bit and to be able to think not only about the past but to think about the future should be supported. And of course the war challenges diversity and the war challenges democratic practices. Some of them are limited also during the war because of security issues. But I think that this core is already going throughout Ukraine in civic education initiatives and work with young people. And actually civic education now it is not just something provided by informal organizations, NGOs. It is part of the program. There are full books from 1st to 11th form, and I know with teachers with whom we work that those topics are now extremely popular among 15, 17 years old. For topic of democracy, topic of human rights, topic of identity, gender identity, those issues are now relevant for them. So I think that we are on the way.
A question that I have in regards to the work with children that I understood that all of you do in different contexts. I know that one of the big structural problems of Ukraine before the war is a very widespread system of corruption. And I think if we are talking about the recreation of the country and the rebuilding of the country, I'm just wondering how you think in terms of education and you know, kind of building up the courage of the next generation, how anti-corruption measures are part of your thinking and a part of what you think civil society can make a contribution. Because I think if we're talking about funding and continuous funding from the European Union and you know national and international actors, I think being able to answer to questions around corruption is going to be a really, really big issue for Ukraine in the post-war area.
Already for this 7 years, anti-corruption education is included into program of Ukrainian schools, and colleagues, NGOs, Transparency International, for example, and other also Ukrainian NGOs who are dealing with that, they have developed really great games for small children, also different instruments that can be used with teacher and students at school, and also the reform of our education and reform of our medical system are slowly getting rid of corruption, getting rid of paying for your notes, for example, at school, or someone doing your homework. That's already not okay. And I think that if we continue it, we need to continue, and we need to fight for transparency and to control governments, to control authorities on how they spend money, because it's money for us, it's money for our children and for our future, and that's our task to control it. That's it.
And on that point, it's my favorite topic, corruption. So it's one of the it's a stereotype, like Ukraine is so corrupt. Yeah, there's a grain of truth in that. So very small comment from my side on that, because I was researching anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine for the past 8 years. And it's remarkable what progress has been achieved, especially when you talk about the institutional landscape combating corruption. Yeah, so happy to talk about all of that with greatest passion after our session. But I wanted to say that even for EVZ, I was involved in an initiative for anti-corruption Stadtführung, guided city tours. Yeah, so the energy, this is what fascinated and actually drew me to Ukraine, is not the problem that is prevalent in Romania, Bulgaria, and elsewhere in the Balkans and so on, also in Hungary and in Germany. We also have some problems with corruption, but it's the energy of the Ukrainian civil society in combating corruptions. And there are great initiatives already on the national level, just last sentence, stepping out of my role as a moderator here, but there are ideas out there how to prevent corruption in the recovery process. So the ideas from the Ukrainian civil society are very clearly articulated and through mechanisms, oversight mechanisms, involvement of transparency and others. So I'm very happy to share even some documents on that. So civil society from day one has been involved on planning for the recovery and how to avoid that any single Western cent is stolen. But that's another topic for a whole new discussion we can and should have.
I just want to say that it will be our joint victory, and we are on the right side of this story. And I want to ask you to support Ukraine and to be on our side, and it will be our joint victory.
Thank you. And Anna, your thoughts.
Yeah, I will add that, yes, we need victory and we need to win quickly, but also what we need is transitional justice, recovery process. So it will be a long, long way, but I hope for future and for good future for all of us and for Ukraine to be a part of European Union. Thank you.